Vikings, let's win this game.
Nobody expected the Vikings offseason to blow up like this. A blockbuster rumor involving Justin Jefferson, growing questions and bold statements surrounding J.J. McCarthy, and another surprising shakeup on offense, along with mounting speculation about which direction the front office is prepared to take, have left everyone asking the same question. What exactly is happening in Minnesota? There's a very fine line between building a roster that can compete right now and building a franchise that can contend for years to come. That's exactly where an unexpected debate has started to gain traction. Instead of talking about free agent additions or roster upgrades, some analysts have begun discussing the possibility of moving on from the biggest offensive star this team has. Yes, the player at the center of that conversation is Justin Jefferson. The idea came from a discussion involving Adam Patrick of the Viking age, who floated the possibility that general manager Nolan Teasley could consider trading Jefferson while his value is still at its absolute peak. The thinking follows a philosophy made famous by Bill Belichick over the years. Move on from elite players before their production begins to decline, stockpile premium draft picks, and build a sustainable contender. Patrick believes Jefferson, at just 27 years old, could still command 1 or even 2 first-round picks, giving the front office a rare opportunity to accelerate a new competitive window. But it doesn't take much imagination to understand why that idea would spark outrage across Minnesota. We're talking about far more than just an elite wide receiver. Justin Jefferson has become the face of the franchise, the centerpiece of the offense, and a player capable of changing a game with a single play. Trading him would be an enormous gamble, especially when so many of the offense's struggles over the past year had far more to do with inconsistent quarterback play than anything Jefferson did. That's what makes this conversation so complicated. Does it really make sense to move your best player when the bigger issue might be the guy throwing him the football? While that debate continues to divide fans, there's also some encouraging news coming from the defensive side of the ball. Rookie Caleb Banks has received strong praise heading into training camp. Even as he continues recovering from foot surgery, Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox believes Banks has a legitimate chance to earn an important role in Minnesota's defensive line rotation once he's fully healthy. The Vikings already have solid competition inside, with Dominique Orange, Jalen Redmond, Isaiah Loundermilk, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and Elijah Williams all battling for snaps. Still, Banks enters camp carrying the expectations that naturally come with being a first-round pick. Coaches have reportedly been impressed with his mental development during rehab, showing that even while sidelined physically, he has continued learning the defense and preparing himself for a meaningful role. If he can translate that potential onto the field, Minnesota may have found a true difference maker in the middle of its defensive front. That would matter immediately. And while one young prospect fights to earn his opportunity and rumors surrounding the team's biggest superstar continue to fuel debate, it's impossible not to wonder just how much these decisions could shape the season that's about to begin. Just when it seemed like the Vikings had finally narrowed their focus heading into training camp, another wave of uncertainty hit the quarterback room. It's the one position every team has to get right, and right now, Minnesota is facing questions that simply refuse to go away. The competition between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy is expected to dominate headlines throughout camp, but not everyone believes this battle will last very long. In fact, some insiders are already looking beyond the competition itself and wondering if one of these quarterbacks might not even be on the roster by the time Week 1 arrives. That's where the stakes become much bigger. SKOR North's Phil Mackey recently suggested there is still a legitimate possibility that J.J. McCarthy could be traded before the regular season begins. While he backed away from previously saying the odds were as high as 90%, he made it clear he believes the chances are still significant. His reasoning goes beyond what happens on the practice field. Mackey questioned why Carson Wentz would agree to return to Minnesota if the expectation was simply to sit as the third quarterback. Throughout his career, Wentz has typically waited for opportunities where he could at least serve as a backup with a realistic path to playing time. That has fueled speculation that the Vikings may have already envisioned Wentz as the primary backup, leaving McCarthy's future much less certain if Kyler Murray wins the starting job. From the organization's perspective, this is an incredibly delicate situation. Kevin O'Connell invested time and energy into developing McCarthy after selecting him in the first round, but injuries and inconsistent performances have prevented the young quarterback from establishing himself. Including the playoffs, availability has been one of his biggest challenges, and when he has played, the results haven't consistently answered the questions surrounding his long-term future. At the same time, Murray arrives with far more experience and a resume that suggests he can still perform at a high level if he stays healthy. That experience is one reason Fox Sports host Colin Cowherd doesn't even view this as a true quarterback competition. He believes Murray will ultimately win the job because of his talent, leadership, and ability to command the locker room. Cowherd even argued that while McCarthy could eventually revive his career somewhere else, similar to players like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold, the Vikings simply don't have the luxury of waiting if they believe Murray gives them the better chance to win right now. Whether fans agree with that assessment or not, it adds even more pressure to every throw, every practice, and every preseason snap. Nothing about this camp will feel routine. This isn't just about deciding who starts under center. It's about determining the direction of the franchise. If McCarthy proves everyone wrong, the Vikings may finally have the young franchise quarterback they envisioned. But if Murray takes control of the offense as many expect, the conversation could quickly shift from a quarterback battle to one of the biggest trades of the entire preseason. And until one of them clearly separates himself, every day of camp will add another layer to the speculation. For a team that already has 3 quarterbacks competing for attention, the last thing anyone expected was another name suddenly entering the conversation. Yet that's exactly what happened when a surprising proposal surfaced, linking a former Pro Bowl quarterback to Minnesota. It wasn't based on inside information or a growing rumor around the league, but it was enough to make fans stop and ask one simple question. Why would the Vikings even consider going down that road? The idea came from Anthony Palacios of Last Word on Sports, who suggested that if retired quarterback Derek Carr decides he wants to return to the NFL, Minnesota could become a potential landing spot under the right circumstances. His theory revolves around the possibility of the current quarterback competition taking an unexpected turn. If Kyler Murray were somehow to lose the starting job and become unhappy with a backup role, Palacios speculated that he could seek a trade, potentially leaving the Vikings looking for another experienced option if J.J. McCarthy were unable to stay healthy. On paper, it's an interesting thought experiment. In reality, it feels like a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. The Vikings didn't bring Kyler Murray to Minnesota just to create another layer of uncertainty. They signed him because they believe he can stabilize the most important position on the field. At only 28 years old, Murray still has plenty of football ahead of him, and throughout his career with the Arizona Cardinals, he showed flashes of being one of the league's most dynamic dual-threat quarterbacks. If Kevin O'Connell can help him rediscover that level of play, Minnesota may already have the answer it has been searching for. And even if Murray doesn't become the long-term solution, the organization still has every reason to evaluate J.J. McCarthy before looking outside the building again. He's only 23 years old, was selected with the 10th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, and despite an uneven start to his career, he still possesses the kind of upside that convinced the Vikings to invest so heavily in him. Bringing Derek Carr into the picture would do little more than delay those evaluations and complicate a decision Minnesota already needs to make. Carr deserves respect for what he accomplished during his NFL career, including more than 41,000 passing yards and over 250 touchdown passes. But his last full chapter in the league never suggested he was capable of elevating a team into championship contention. After stepping away from football following the 2024 season, expecting him to return and immediately outperform either Murray or McCarthy simply doesn't seem realistic. The Vikings have already committed to reshaping their quarterback room, and now comes the most important part, letting that plan play out. Fans have waited a long time for stability under center, and while there are always going to be outside suggestions and unexpected headlines during the offseason, Minnesota doesn't need another quarterback controversy. The answers they're looking for are already in the building. Now it's up to this coaching staff and these quarterbacks to show that the plan deserves a real chance. As if the questions surrounding the quarterback position weren't already enough, another conversation has started to build momentum as training camp approaches, and this one involves the player every defense fears when they see him lined up across the field. Last season didn't look anything like the standard he's established throughout his career, and because of that, some people around the league have started asking a question that would have sounded ridiculous just a year ago. Is Justin Jefferson still the best wide receiver in football? ESPN analyst Mina Kimes doesn't believe the problem has ever been Jefferson himself. In fact, she argued that the biggest issue was the inconsistent quarterback play that limited one of the NFL's most dangerous playmakers throughout the 2025 season. Jefferson finished the year with 84 catches for 1,048 yards and only 2 touchdowns, numbers that would be considered excellent for most receivers, but felt surprisingly modest for someone widely viewed as the face of the position. According to Kimes, the tape tells the real story. She pointed to J.J. McCarthy's off-target rate when throwing to Jefferson, which reached 28%, roughly double what Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins posted while targeting him in previous seasons. Those missed opportunities didn't just hurt the offense, they created visible frustration for a player who repeatedly found himself open without consistently receiving catchable footballs. That's why Kimes believes even average quarterback play from Kyler Murray could completely change Jefferson's production in 2026. She isn't predicting an MVP season or guaranteeing record-breaking numbers. Her point is much simpler. If Murray can provide competent, steady play and reconnect with the deep ball accuracy that once made him one of the league's most exciting quarterbacks, Jefferson should naturally return to the elite production fans have come to expect. That could change the entire conversation. But while some analysts remain confident in Jefferson's talent, others have started questioning whether he still deserves to be called the NFL's top receiver. CBS sports analyst Ledger Duzable recently argued that both Jamar Chase and Jackson Smith-Njigba deserve to rank ahead of Jefferson based on their production over the last 2 seasons. His argument centers on statistics, pointing out that those receivers continue to post elite numbers despite dealing with changing quarterback situations of their own. Whether Vikings fans agree with that assessment or not, the debate itself says everything about how important this upcoming season has become. Justin Jefferson doesn't suddenly become a different player because one season fell below his incredibly high standards. The talent hasn't disappeared. The route running hasn't disappeared. The ability to completely take over a football game certainly hasn't disappeared. What has been missing is stability at quarterback. That's why this training camp carries so much weight, not only for Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, but also for the future legacy of the Vikings' biggest superstar. If Minnesota finally solves its quarterback situation, Jefferson has every opportunity to remind the entire NFL exactly why so many people have considered him the best receiver in football. And if that happens, these off-season debates may not survive very long once the season begins. No matter where you stand on these stories, one thing is clear. The next few weeks are going to shape the future of the Minnesota Vikings in a big way. From the quarterback battle, to the rumors surrounding Justin Jefferson, to the development of young talent like Caleb Banks, every decision carries real consequences for this franchise. That's why training camp feels bigger than ever. As fans, all we can ask for is clarity, growth, and a team that's ready to compete every single Sunday. Now I want to hear from you. Which storyline has you watching training camp the closest? Do you believe Kyler Murray is the answer? Should the Vikings keep believing in J.J. McCarthy? Or is all the talk about Justin Jefferson being overblown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Vikings update. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!